Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. I'm Nicholas Kolaitis from the University of California, San Francisco, and I will be discussing how to prepare for your invited presentation. The goals I have for today are to talk about what you should do after you've gotten your invite to speak at a symposium, how you should prepare for your talk in the scientific symposium, some guidance on how you should make your slides, how you should deliver your talk in the scientific symposium, and then what you should do to get invited to give a talk in a scientific symposium next year. I will note that some portions of this talk were adapted from a talk given by my division chief, Prescott Woodruff, from a talk that he gives about how you should prepare a scientific presentation. So you've gotten the invite. Hopefully, you've already received an email that looks like this, or if not, hopefully next year you get an email that looks like this. First things first, open it up and do a happy dance. Second, start booking your trip to Prague. Actually, before you start booking your trip, review the talk title just to make sure that it's something that's within your content expertise. So this is what I've been asked to speak at this year. Don't let me down. What we've learned from failed clinical trials in group 2 and group 3 pulmonary hypertension. I am a pulmonary hypertension doc. This is well within my wheelhouse. So accept, click the accept button, and then go back, check the email again, and verify that you've actually accepted. Once you've accepted your invitation, you need to think about how you should prepare for your talk in the symposium. One of the nice things about ISHLT is that they will give you a presentation description. So in this particular one, I've been asked to discuss the multiple failed clinical trials in group 2 and group 3 pulmonary hypertension, to discuss why some trials have been unsuccessful and how we should select the correct patient population for clinical trials in the future, and how we should design trials here. Okay, I can give this talk. The next thing you want to know is, what are you not going to talk about? And so look at the session in the ISHLT website. Make sure that you don't overlap with the other speakers. You can see here that in my session, there's a talk about risk assessment in group 2 and group 3 PH. There's a talk about perioperative considerations in group 2 and group 3 PH. There's a talk about medical and interventional therapies that are successful for group 2 PH. And a talk about medical therapies for group 3 PH. So I will not be talking about any of these things. The next thing is, how long do you have to talk? Look at how many minutes you've been asked to speak. You see here, I've been asked to speak for 12 minutes. Try to time your talk so that it's shorter than that, so that you don't run over, and leave some time for questions. Now that you've conceptualized your talk and you know what you're going to talk about and what you're not going to talk about, let's make your slides. And so here's a little advice on what you should do when making slides. As you're starting to make your slides, make an outline and start to conceptualize the timing. How much time am I going to spend on this section versus this section versus this section? And if you know how much time you're going to spend, you know how many slides you want to spend on each section. I also create a reference library for each one of the talks I give, similar to as if I'm writing a manuscript. And this works well because you could then potentially take this topic and turn it into something like a review where you already have the references ready to go. Treat the talk like you would a literature search or a review article. When giving a talk, especially at a venue like ISHLT, I always think about considering my audience. You need to provide sufficient background so that an educated non-expert can understand the context. Typically avoid jargon and abbreviations, and try to make the talk accessible for somebody with medical knowledge, but not very refined medical knowledge. So try to make the talk accessible for a medical student, a pharmacy student, or a nursing student. A little bit about slide design. When you're thinking about your backgrounds, I typically prefer a simple background, like a white background with dark lettering. Try to avoid patterns. Speaking of colors, look at where your talk is going to be. Is it going to be in a large auditorium where the lights are off? Or is it going to be in a small room where the lights are on? If it's in a large auditorium with the lights off, a dark background with light letters tends to project better. If it's in a small room with lights on, a light background with dark letters tends to project better. When thinking about your color scheme, avoid red and green because some of your audience members will not be able to differentiate between the different colors on your slide. In terms of fonts, I recommend using sans serif fonts. These are easier to read from a distance than serif fonts. Serif fonts like Times New Roman or Garamond or Georgia are harder to read from a further distance. Avoid all caps. It just looks poor. And use a sentence or bullet format when trying to convey a point. Try to make your font as large as possible and to fit your slides, because if you have too small of a font, it's hard to read. In general, slides that are less busy are easier to understand. And so try to have each slide contain one overall message. Don't overwhelm your slides with text or with data, and try to convey the message of your slide in the title. For example, here, slide content, one message per slide. How should you deliver the talk now that you've been invited, you've prepared, and you've created your talk? Before the conference, practice the talk. Practice it by yourself. Practice the transitions. Practice in front of your friends, perhaps other friends that are going to ISHLT and have talks prepared for themselves. And monitor the timing. It's always better to be under time than over time. At the conference, there's a speaker center. ISHLT allows you to upload the slides to the speaker center online beforehand, but you can also bring a flash drive and upload them at the speaker center. Make sure you test your slide on the computer at the speaker center. There have been a number of times where my slides, the transitions haven't worked appropriately on the computers at the conference. And so it's always good to also have a backup. Check the slide deck, make sure it works, and bring your flash drive. Okay, it's time to present. It can be really nerve-wracking when you're standing in front of a large audience presenting. So what should you do? Well, avoid any distractions, turn off your phone, make sure that you're not getting messages from your friends telling you, hey, good luck, great job in your talk. Face the audience when delivering your talk. Make sure you look at the audience members. And one of the things that I do is I pick a friendly face in each section of the audience and I present to them. So I will start my sentence by looking at a friendly face on the left side of the audience. When I'm finished with that point, I will look towards the center of the audience and I will talk towards a friendly face in the center. And then I'll look to the right and I'll talk to the one on the right. So if I have three friendly faces, this way I'm looking at each one of the audience members, looking around a little bit, but at the same time, restricting my gaze to just three specific areas. If you can and plan in advance, ask your friends to sit in the audience in a couple different sections of the audience so you can look at them and deliver the talk to them. Because if I can deliver the talk to my friend, it's much easier than delivering the talk to a large audience. Speak slowly and clearly without abbreviations. Now it's time for questions. You've given your talk, the questions are coming. Be calm. Remember, you're the expert. You're the one that the ISHLT requested to give this talk. If you have a question that you're not sure of the answer, deflect. Say something to the point of, that's a really great question. I hadn't considered it before, and I'll need to think about it. Perhaps we can meet offline to discuss further. I will also say that some people just ask questions to be seen. If that happens, be respectful. Thank you. That's a great point. Now, how do you get invited to give a symposium presentation for next year? So at ISHLT 2024, start to prepare for ISHLT 2025. Bring a notebook with you and write down ideas in the conference for new symposium. Meet other attendees who are interested in similar things as you and discuss ideas for symposia together. If you attended a talk where you like the speaker, write down the names of these speakers, because you'll need to include speakers in your proposal for next year. When you're planning a symposium, include yourself as a potential speaker. And remember the 3 G's of ISHLT: geography, generation, and gender. So make sure that your symposia has speakers of diverse geography, of both genders, and of various stages of career. Additionally, I suggest adding an M, a multidisciplinary approach. If you have only physicians, it's less likely to be accepted than if you have a symposium that includes pharmacists or includes nursing speakers or includes mechanical circulatory support speakers. So the points of summary are that you should respond quickly to the invite. You should make sure you have the expertise to give the talk proposed. You should review the session and the other speakers in the session. You should have clear slides without too many distractions, and try to have good PowerPoint etiquette. Be prepared for the delivery of your talk. Remember, practice does make perfect. And be ready to propose future symposium ideas. With that, I'll say thank you.